All right, so I have no slides. So be a little bit different. A couple videos though, but we'll get to those. So my name is Brian. I know some of you, but many of you I don't know. I'm actually an engineer at GE, and I work on games on the weekends. You know, a few hours a week usually. I used to lead the local Unity meetup for about a year. Actually, Taro came almost every time, which was very helpful. Taro's one of the local experts, as we all know, on Unity. You know, interestingly, I've always tried to keep these two worlds very separate. You know, the work I do at GE versus, you know, game development on the weekends. This is actually not what I was going to talk about, but just recently at GE, I work at the Research Center in Niskayuna. One of the AI managers somehow knew that, you know, I dabble with Unity. He asked me if I would give kind of a lunchtime presentation on it. And it turns out that the AI group has gotten really interested in Unity as a platform for developing AI, building sort of virtual worlds and simulating things and training intelligent agents. So maybe that's a future topic. In any case, what I was going to talk about now is what I have learned about trying to get a VR application published in the Oculus Store, which isn't easy. So, you know, over the last few years, you know, I've gotten a few apps, you know, in iTunes, just simple games, and Google Play. I have 2 assets for sale in the Unity Asset Store. None of those were too difficult to get accepted. But then I had the idea that, you know, I thought, you know, boy, VR now, you know, is very interesting. It's a lot of fun. You know, maybe I'll make a VR game and get that published in the Oculus Store. So, so I thought I would, you know, just since I have very little time to work on it, I thought I'd start with 2 of the 2 Unity assets that I had already made. So I've got one asset in the asset store called the Flying Drone Toolkit, which is, you know, how to add a flying drone that can do different things to your own games. I also have a different asset that's called the NPC Populator, non-player characters, how to have just like a lot of humanoid walking figures in your game wandering around. I actually have a better version of that I haven't released, which might be called something like the NPC Behavior Builder, where you can have NPCs react to, you know, things that happen around them. So I thought, all right, I'll take the Flying Drone Toolkit, and I'll take the NPC Behavior Builder, and what kind of game can I make out of it? So a couple of years ago, my wife and I were on vacation in Hawaii, and it was just so great. I thought, all right, the game has to be on the beach, and it has to have drones, and it has to have NPCs, and then beyond that, it was just sort of like filling in some details. So the game is called Sharkferno. It had nothing to do with Sharknado, and even though it has flying sharks, it was not in any way a copy of Sharknado. And so there's a story behind the name Clockworks Games. So the idea is that you can play as a drone. You have to shoot the sharks, and the thing about it that I thought was really interesting is that you can transfer your consciousness between the drones and any people. So you can jump back and forth. You can play as a person, push a button, play as the drone, choose any person in the scene, push a button, and play as that person. So it could just run, but I'll just keep talking. This was the Unity Asset Store. If any of you have developed in Unity and used the Asset Store, you know, it's so amazing. I mean, I did absolutely none of this artwork. Everything here is purchased from the Unity Asset Store. And actually a huge amount of the work, I don't know if any of you have developed for VR, has to run very smoothly at 90 frames per second so that the player doesn't get sick. That means you have 11 milliseconds for every frame. So everything that happens, the rendering, the game logic, everything, you have 11 milliseconds each time. So you end up spending a lot of time running various profiling tools and optimizing the code. So anyways, what you just saw, I submitted that to the Oculus Store. And I actually got a response like 2 days later, and it was like 3 bullets. It said, hard to know what to do when you start. It said, no concept of health. You don't know, actually what happens if the shark gets you, you're dead. But that's not clear, I guess. So no concept of health. And also there were 3 different levels. And one of the levels it said, you can't move. Actually, that was intentional, but they were surprised by that. Something else that I did, there's a program called Oculus Start that if you can fill out an application. It's on the Oculus website. If you can convince them that you're developing an application for one of their platforms, they'll accept you as a member, and they send you a lot of free stuff. So I joined. I got accepted. They sent me an Oculus Rift. I already had one. They sent me an Oculus Go, which was their new platform. Gave me a free license to Unity for a year. And then they also, if you attended, they have an annual conference called Oculus Start. And if you were to attend it this year, they would give you free admission and put you up in a hotel for 2 nights. So I did that. And you could also sign up to talk to an Oculus engineer, which I did. So that was great. I had 30 minutes with an Oculus engineer, and it was great. I sat down with him. I said, okay, let me explain my game to you. And he said, you don't have to explain it. I tried it yesterday. So he saw me on his schedule, and then I had submitted it, so we found it. And he gave me great feedback. And he said that the problem with the game, he said it was true that you don't know what to do when you start. And he also said that they're really worried at Oculus about games having replay value, because I guess they have a lot of stuff that people try once. And it's like, oh, that was interesting, and then they never touch it again. So he said it has to have something that would make people do it again. And he said even a leaderboard. A leaderboard would be a good start. Multiple levels would be good. If there's any way to make it multiplayer, that's great. But they're really, the bar to get accepted for Oculus, I learned, was very high. I talked to a lot of other people at the conference who had submitted games and different applications to Oculus, and most of them told me that they submit and they never hear anything, get absolutely no response at all. And I said, well, what do you mean? I got a response in 2 days. And they said, people didn't believe me, actually. They said, no, there's no way they responded to you in 2 days. So apparently, what I heard was that Oculus has given feedback, in the past based on their submissions, and then the developer will address the feedback, and then it's still not good enough to be accepted, and the developer gets mad at Oculus because they put more work into it. So the response to that was that Oculus usually does not give feedback to anything that's submitted. So apparently it was unusual that I got some feedback. So I've been working on trying to address what I learned. So now I've actually added sort of a tutorial. So it said, move your left thumbstick and you move both thumbsticks and you move faster. And just kind of, Tara, you and I were talking about this over the weekend, just having sort of like, when you first start it up at one step at a time, tells you what to do. So I'm hoping this will address the issues of, you start up and you don't know how to play. You also see 3 hearts there. I decided to give live since that was a criticism. So it was exciting at Oculus. I don't know if any of you follow Oculus. It was actually pretty exciting at the conference when Mark Zuckerberg walked out on stage. He announced the Oculus Quest, which is the new headset that's coming out early next year. So anyways, the question was, have I considered Steam, where you can also put Oculus compatible games? And sure, I've got that in mind. I feel like the fact that I've gotten feedback, I will follow through and see if based on some changes, if they will accept it. But if they don't, maybe I would go to Steam. I also learned at the conference, just talking to other developers, there's different levels of being accepted. Like if you go to the Oculus Store, there's a section called Early Access. I'd be thrilled to be accepted to Early Access. A lot of developers feel like that wasn't like a real acceptance. That's like, that's sort of like a half acceptance or something, and they feel like that was sort of a lesser kind of acceptance. The question was, am I looking to get on it for free? Actually, I thought I would charge something but a very low amount, like $1 or $2. So not free, but not expensive. The question was, if there were a sequel, what would I change? I don't have a quick answer to that, but something I would like to do. I mean, the beach, and, and the ocean and stuff was just one environment, and I think I've got it set up such that I could purchase another environment from the asset store, like a urban, dystopian city or something, and kind of have the same game. So I think I might try to add so that in the same game there's a few different levels, a few different environments. That's it. Thank you.